On my first day on the job as Prime Minister, I will call the President and demand that we rapidly renegotiate the THIS agreement on a very tight timeline. Mr. Carney said that it was a teachable moment. He's right. It taught all of us that Mark Carney will never put Canada first. He sold out. He built his own profit off of compromising himself and his company. He still has those compromises because he has money, untold millions, invested in Brookfield that owes all of this money still to the government in Beijing. So how are we going to know when he's acting for Canada rather than acting for his bottom line? Yesterday, many Canadians watched with anger and anxiety as President Trump once again attacked our country and our jobs. Until yesterday, many Canadians, including me, still held out hope that President Trump might come to his senses and spare us of additional tariffs. Just last Friday, Mark Carney said he had a, quote, very productive, very constructive call with President Trump, citing progress. Unfortunately, Canada has not been spared. There is no progress, and there was nothing constructive or productive about Trump's tariff announcement. At midnight last night, Canada was being hit with new and completely unjustifiable tariffs on autos, in addition to the existing tariffs on lumber, steel, and aluminum. The Prime Minister also said last night that we can expect even more tariffs on our lumber, our pharmaceuticals, semiconductors, and copper. Millions of Canadians woke up to the fear of losing their savings or their jobs. It's clear that tariffs must end. It's clear that Canadians must stand together. And I'm here to reassure Canadians that united, we will get through this together. We will strengthen our country and stand up for our workers. First and foremost, we must support workers and their families. So to the hardworking Canadians and businesses directly hit by these unjustified tariffs, I say, your concerns are my concern today. We are here for you. A new Conservative government will make it a priority to keep industry moving and workers working. We know that once the link between worker and job is broken, it can take months or years to rebuild it. That's why it is much more economically affordable and much more important from the well-being of a family to keep the job in place. It'll mean big savings. For example, on a new Chevy Silverado from the factory in Oshawa, a new Honda CR-V from Alliston, a Toyota RAV4 from Woodstock, or a new Chrysler Pacifica from Windsor. And all the other affected industries, we have your back. We will stand with you. We know that some of these plants are temporarily shut down or are closed for retooling, but we will keep them eligible if and when they do reopen, and we will continue to monitor the list of vehicles made in Canada and add and subtract automobiles from eligibility based on the Canadian content that they have. I announced yesterday as well that a Conservative government, a new Conservative government, will protect workers for a change. We will set up the Keeping Canadians Working Fund. This will be a temporary targeted loan program for businesses directly hit by Trump's tariffs to allow them to keep workers on the job until we get through this tariff madness. We will start with a fund of $3 billion. These will be loans, not expenditures, and we will use the money to lend to companies who are desperate to keep employees on the payroll throughout this period of uncertainty and tariff obstacles, so that those workers can keep working, keep paying taxes, can keep supporting their families. I will push hard to end the tariff madness. On my first day on the job as Prime Minister, I will call the President and demand that we rapidly renegotiate the THIS agreement on a very tight timeline. That will allow us to find certainty. I will also propose that in the meantime, both sides suspend tariffs. To be clear, no counter tariffs from Canada will be removed unless and until the Americans do the same. But the argument to President Trump will be this: put aside the uncertainty, the job loss, and stock market crashes on both sides of the border. Pause the tariffs until we can hammer out a deal. Now, that deal will have to be in the Canadian interest. First and foremost, we will protect Canadian sovereignty. Certain things will be non-negotiable. We will protect our land, our water, our laws, our government, our culture, our language policies, and our borders will always be exclusively under our control. Second, we will demand an end to all tariffs, free trade, both ways. But third, we believe we can convince the Americans it's in their national and security interest to get a deal, because we will use all the proceeds of that deal, all of the economic benefits that flow into the federal coffers, to massively rebuild our military so that we can carry our weight and keep our continent safe. But, of course, there's no guarantee with Trump. As we're learning, nobody in Canada can control Donald Trump, contrary to many of the suggestions and the unrealistic expectations that some have been setting. Which is why I have to make clear, and I will be making clear to President Trump, that any commitments we make that America wants to happen on defense, border cooperation, or market access can and will be instantaneously withdrawn if he violates any part of the agreement. We will only uphold our side of the bargain as long as he holds up his side of the bargain. That's how we create the leverage to protect against a president who changes his mind and breaks his word. Still, no one can control President Trump, and no one can predict what he will do. The only thing we can control is what we do here at home. And that's why the best way to stand up to President Trump is to make our economy stronger and more independent from the Americans. The economic plan I've been announcing throughout this election is to unleash our industry, to make it strong, self-reliant, sovereign, so that we can stand on our own 2 feet and stand up to President Trump. My plan will cut income taxes for all Canadians so hard work pays off for a change. We'll eliminate the industrial carbon tax so that we can bring back steel, manufacturing, aluminum, fertilizer, oil and gas, and other heavy industrial products that are the backbone of a modern economy. I will relaunch our energy sector by repealing Liberal No New Pipelines Law C-69 and lifting the Liberal energy cap to produce more energy. Mark Carney has said he will keep the legal ban on pipelines in the C-69 and that he will keep the energy cap. That is economic suicide. It is another reason why President Trump has supported Mark Carney's re-election in this campaign. If Mr. Carney goes ahead with C-69, he will be blocking pipelines, mines, nuclear plants, and other projects, sending hundreds of billions of dollars fleeing south right into the hands of Donald Trump. And it means that Western Canadians will never be able to sell their oil directly to Eastern Canadians. Instead, we'll have to keep passing our energy south at a discount and even sending energy through the American economy just to send it back to Quebec and Ontario. That is not change. That is more of the lost Liberal decade. And the choice on resources is this: after a lost Liberal decade of driving our jobs south and driving our economy under the American thumb, do the Liberals deserve a fourth term in power, or is it time to unlock our resources, bring home our jobs, and become a strong economy for a change with a new Conservative government?
Tom.
Hi, Bill.
How are you?
Great. How did you like our rally yesterday?
It was nice. Big crowd.
Very big. How many people do you think were there?
3,000 to 4,000.
It's pretty big. When was the last time you had that in Kingston?
It's been a while.
Yeah.
But I understand too that a lot of your supporters came out from across the region as well, not just this riding. So
that was nice of them in this rain. It was a rough night to drive in. I don't know. Did John A. MacDonald have crowds like that when he was the MP here?
You may have had a few crowds around City Hall back in the day. As a matter of fact, I was going to ask you about, one of the questions I'm going to ask you is about putting Sir John A. statue back in Kingston and the impact that might have on Indigenous relations and truth and reconciliation. But I did want to also touch on this other question here, that experts have predicted that Kingston will be kind of shielded from the impact of the severest impact of the tariff war, partly because we're a government town. Lots of government employees, including a large military base, as you know. But you talk about slashing government jobs and bureaucracy as part of your platform. So I want to know what you would say to those anxious federal workers in this and other communities across the country. Are their jobs safe in these uncertain times?
Yes, we've said our reductions in the federal bureaucracy will be done by attrition. We have 17,000 public servants who voluntarily leave every single year, many to retire, many to accept other job opportunities, and that allows us to reduce the cost of the bureaucracy without giving out mass pink slips. I would also add that we're going to expand our military, which will be great for Kingston because of the wonderful military footprint we have here. We need a new Conservative government that will axe taxes, build homes, unleash our resources, and bring home our jobs for a change. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question.
The statue. I mean, I believe we should put the John A. Macdonald statue back up. I mean, you agree with that? What do you think? Look, it was John A. Macdonald who first had the vision of resisting American annexation. His entire life was dedicated to a great East-West nation. That's why he put together Confederation and why he built the railroad. An East-West railroad was designed to bind us together with iron and steel. And that's exactly what we need to do now. We need East-West pipelines, roadways, transmission lines, and other resources that will link our nation from east to west and reverse the hopeless reliance the Liberals have made us face with the Americans. You know, President Trump wants to keep our economy weak by supporting Mark Carney and keeping the Liberals in power for a fourth term. But what's good for President Trump is not what's good for Canada. We need a new government who will put Canada first for a change. And that includes standing up for and uniting around our brilliant history. And that history includes John A. Macdonald. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question.
Yeah. Good morning.
Hi, Abigail Beeman, CTV News. Your party has dropped 4 candidates in 2 days. How can Canadians be convinced of your vetting process for people you believe are fit to govern this country? And here in Kingston, how does that vetting process extend to Mr. Patterson for his previous connection to a church that supported conversion therapy?
Well, first of all, you omitted from your question that Mr. Patterson renounced conversion therapy years ago. And so the question is not accurate. Secondly, our vetting process is stronger than all the other parties. That's why we have a zero tolerance for anyone who acts unacceptably. This is the exact opposite of what we saw from Mr. Carney, who tried to keep on as a candidate someone who had asked for his Conservative opponent to be handed over to the Chinese Communist government on a bounty, to be imprisoned or maybe murdered because he was a dissident against that government. Mr. Carney said that it was a teachable moment. He's right. It taught all of us that Mark Carney will never put Canada first. He sold out. He went to China to get a $250 million loan from the Chinese government while he was Justin Trudeau's economic advisor. He met with top officials in the central bank. He met with the mayor of Beijing. He built his own profit off of compromising himself and his company. He still has those compromises because he has money, untold millions, invested in Brookfield that owes all of this money still to the government in Beijing. So how are we going to know when he's acting for Canada rather than acting for his bottom line.